Hey, welcome back to the Girl Hockey Dad podcast. Welcome to season 1, episode 3 of my Audible Gong show. Thanks to anybody who shared or listened or commented or did anything with the last 2 episodes. I have to say thanks again for all the support. Tons of new followers in my world. Tons in the internet world, I'm sure, is not how many people follow us, but I was super excited about it. Welcome everybody who is a first-time listener, and this is, not a bad spot to start with our first full-length interview, which I've been so looking forward to doing, and is exactly why I wanted to do the podcast in the first place. Is I love talking to people. I love having conversations. And I do it all day, every day anyways. Most of the time it turns out to be about hockey. So why not do it with people who know way more than I do, who have tons of experiences. And yeah, I'm just really excited about this. So our first guest, as I've been teasing online, one follower got it right away. You know who you are. Well done. Our first guest is none other than Katie Mora of the University of Guelph women's hockey team. Katie is a interim head coach and a longtime assistant coach to Rachel Flanagan. I won't say much else. I want to let Katie do all the talking. My 10 cents on who she is she grew up playing hockey in the city of Guelph, Ontario, and then went on to play some PWHL, which is U22 Elite. She'll talk a little bit about that. And she's done some pretty incredible things coaching for the FISU Team Canada, this past gold medal team at Lake Placid. She was an assistant coach in that group, which was incredible. Katie is she's one of those local legends. She's worked with, if you have a girl in hockey in the Guelph area, have had a girl in hockey in the last 10 years plus, they probably know who Katie Mora is. More importantly, Katie knows who they are. She is a fantastic skills coach. She is a leader in girls hockey in this area, and I'm so thankful that she took time out of her day to talk to me and to spend time chatting hockey and give some insight. I really do appreciate it. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the first full-length interview, Katie Mora.
Let's see if it changes here. Okay.
Yeah, we'll just chat, Phil, like we do.
Yeah, man, that's what we do. Well, usually we chat for 5 seconds before we start drills.
Yeah, but
so
I'll give you more than 5 seconds here, I promise.
Okay, so like the whole idea of what I'm doing and why we're talking about anything is I'm trying to get the perspective of people who have already gone through the system.
Mm-hmm.
You are somebody who is buried in the system,
right,
on a daily basis, and I'm curious, like, where did you play your minor hockey, first of all?
Yeah.
And then just quickly, like, what was your experience in your minor hockey journey?
Okay, so I started playing hockey in Guelph. So I started playing rep at the U9 level. That was one of the first years that Guelph introduced an all-girls team. I can't remember what year that was. That was probably, 1998 was maybe my first year playing like rep or hockey in general.
Okay.
So then I started playing U9, which was like novice. We were called novice back then. Ended up winning provincials in my first year of rep hockey, which was a very exciting experience.
Typical of you, sure.
Yeah, for sure. As a player, I didn't know that was going to be my last big championship I won. So I wish I remembered it a little bit more. But I'm fortunate to have win some, big games as a coach, which is great.
Yeah.
But as a player, didn't win that many championships. So yes, won provincials there. Played in Guelph all the way through until, so I played my first year of U18 AA in Guelph. And then the year after that, in my second year of U18, I made, it was called the PWHL back then. So like the U22 Elite League was called the PW back then. And I played for Cambridge for 2 years. And
so that was the Rivs. Was it the Rivs still then?
We were called the Fury.
Okay.
Yeah, Cambridge Fury. Yeah. So
nice.
Played there for 2 years and then got recruited to Guelph. Played there for 5 years, and now I'm coaching here. So.
And now you are coaching in Guelph, and I don't know how much you want to get into it, but I mean it's pretty crazy just in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. So head coach Rachel Flanagan taking a year of absence or a leave to go coach in the PWHL with Toronto, which is very exciting.
The new PWHL.
The new PWHL, yes. So the real deal. So in the interim, I will be head coach this year, which is an exciting opportunity. But obviously for Rachel, it's like she is so deserving. So I'm so excited to see her do her great things like I know she will.
Well, okay.
Okay.
Of course of course you will. I wanted to jump back obviously because we, Guelph girls hockey, like Guelph minor hockey has gone through, even in your tenure, has gone through a bunch of different changes.
Yeah.
I mean, even in my girls' tenure, it's gone through 3 presidents and who knows how many different board augmentations it's gone through. And I don't want to talk about any of that stuff. I just want to, like, for you saying that you started playing rep in Guelph, and when you did, at what point did you or your family, like, at what point were you aware of what was happening? Like, at what point were you aware that hockey was a thing that you were going to carry on with?
It's so funny because to think that, like, to have the job I have now, I wouldn't have even thought it could be possible. Just playing hockey as like a young girl already felt different, felt like almost strange, especially in my family. Like my grandparents I come from a very Italian household. So to play hockey was not in the forecast, I think.
What would your Nona think?
Yeah, right. So it's just like I don't know. I was supposed to play soccer for sure, and I did play soccer as well. But no, I don't know why I felt that hockey was something I was so drawn to, but I was, and I think I loved skating. I think that was something that really sparked my interest in the game, and then then to have the opportunity to play on an all girls team too was something that wasn't. Like, I didn't think that would happen, So because when I first started, it was just like playing with the boys and all that stuff, which was fine. But then to have the opportunity to see girls hockey grow so rapidly, it was awesome. And then to see it even grow more rapidly now with the new professional league and things like that. I didn't, to be where I am now, I didn't think would even be, I didn't even think there'd be a path to get to where I am now.
Right,
when I first started.
Yeah. And I mean, I think players of your age don't even start on age because it's not a big thing. But like, I think that's a typical story, right? Like girls, all like straight girls hockey wasn't nearly as prevalent as it is now.
Right.
So a lot of people have that similar story of like, once I made the jump to an all girls association. So I wonder like, was it U15? Was it U18? At what point did you think you could go further than, I mean, every girl I think going through the system is like, okay, U18, I have 3 years. And then, then what? Like, am I going to play high school hockey? Do I have a chance to play OUA or, post-secondary? Mm-hmm. So at what point were you yourself aware, or did you actually start focusing on like, okay, I need to fine tune myself if I want to go further, and that idea?
Yeah, it's tough to remember and to reflect like back on it now, because I feel like I'm so removed from that like part of my life, and like especially now the game, it's like all coaching for me, right? So like to reflect on my past as a player, it's always. I
want to bring you into it. I want to bring you back to your past.
No, I'm trying to go back. So I think I was. I don't think I looked too far ahead very often. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just kind of took like 1 year at a time, one day at a time, one practice at a time, and then just kind of took the opportunities as they came. So to reflect back and think like, I want to play at the University of Guelph and things like that. It's like or just play at the next level. Like, I don't know if I verbally said it out loud to anyone other than like my family, I guess, just because of like, you know, like the fear of not making it or things like that, or like, you know, that fear of failure, I guess. So it's like internally I had these goals and stuff, but it wasn't something that I would publicly talk about, I guess. Right. So I just kept taking the opportunities as they came and just trying to like seize every opportunity, right? So and even now, like the resources that these athletes have available to them is so different, and like the recruiting process so different. I remember being recruited to Guelph, and it was like I just ran into Rachel at the rink one day, and it was just like, hey, like let's make this happen. You know what I mean? Let's like, you know, we're watching you and all those things. Like I don't remember having phone calls or emails before. It was just, I always knew of the University of Guelph, and I guess they knew of me. But yeah, I remember I was working a Learn to Skate program one Saturday morning, and the Griffins were about to leave for a game, and I ran into Rachel, and she was just like, hey, let's do this. You know what I mean? Like, let's like, we want you. And I'm just like, okay. Like, I feel like I almost committed on the spot. Like, I didn't really think about any other schools. I was just like, this is it. This is where I want to be. I want to be a Griffin. So
what you're telling me to have that. Rachel got her mitts into you, or her hooks into you really early on. So she knew what she was getting. She wasn't messing around. Yeah.
Like, I was just like this hometown kid that wanted to stay in Guelph and just represent their hometown university, and I couldn't imagine my life any other way, to be honest. So I'm so glad.
It's funny you say that, because and I'm gonna say this, and then you're gonna make a face, and I understand, but like the impact that you've had in so many local kids' lives has been unbelievable. Like, yeah, see, don't even start, because
don't say it.
I know you were making the face, because I've watched it happen. Like, obviously I've got my girls, but it's not, you know, when you see a good coach and you're like, oh, it's that coach has taken a specific shine into these kids. That's not you. It's every single kid has the same amount of attention. You have a memory of what's going on in their lives. You pay such close attention to them, and like, you can see the joy. It's such a freak accident to see you get bent out of shape on the ice, because I can tell how much you enjoy it, that it's like, yeah, you weren't going anywhere. You were going to bleed red and gold, and that's awesome. And it's like, it's amazing to see it, but that's a wicked segue into how do you see it now? Like, I feel like it couldn't be more different. Your path couldn't be more different than the way things seem to be developing now. Like, I know we've already talked about you going on recruiting trips with Rachel and stuff that you guys have done. So even there, it's different. Do you see, or do you feel like it's palpable, the difference of kids coming out of U15, U18, and then like, what's next, and where do I go, and what do I do?
First of all, thank you for the kind words, Phil. I do really like working with, you know, the young athletes, and it is something that's very special to me. So yes, thank you. The difference is, yes, there is a big difference in just like the process. One, like even the timeline where athletes are looking to make commitments is a lot different. And I don't know if I agree with it or not. Like, I think it's just like, you got to take it as it comes. But I think COVID has slowed down the process a little bit, because it was getting very much like grade 9s, 10s committing to different universities and things like that. And if you know, that's great. But I feel like at that age, it's so hard to really know what you want out of a university experience. So there's always the pressure of keeping up with the Joneses and trying to feel like you have to find a home and things like that, which I can empathize how athletes feel in those moments. But the way that like I've always approached recruitment and things like that is like it's got to be a two-way street, right? Like you have to go to a place where you feel is a good fit for you, and like hockey's a bonus, you know what I mean? So it's like academically, is that the place you want to be? Because I think at the end of the day, your education is one of the strongest things you have to fall back on. So at the end of the day, you know, hockey has to just be an additional enhancement. If you find something that offers you the both, that's awesome. So yes, the athletes that are coming out of minor hockey now, I think based on the resources that they have in the development, skill development is something that has just skyrocketed in the last like 5 years. I want to say that like there's 90% of hockey players that are playing minor hockey are probably doing additional skill work outside of just their practices, right? Which is something that is completely different. There was no one did anything extra when
you didn't experience that.
Nothing. I didn't go to someone like one-on-one sessions, nothing like that. It was like everyone just practiced and played their games, and that was it. So like I remember that it's changed completely, but like I even remember in the summer, like I did one camp before the start of September in August, and that was it. That was my hockey in the summer. But looking back,
I don't think it's that different. Oh, come on. Year-round hockey is not normal. That's not
leagues and things like that. It is completely changed. And it's like the amount of ice time these athletes have access to is awesome. It's awesome. And I think that's finding a balance for sure, just to like maintain the love of the game and things like that. I think there's definitely a thing. Overtraining is definitely a thing.
For sure.
So I think it's finding that right balance. But yeah, like just the overall skill development that these athletes have access to, like I'm seeing it when we recruit athletes now, just like their shots, like their ability to make plays and like their skating abilities. I think it's come a long way just because of the extra ice time they have access to.
Well, and you're in your, is it your 5th season with the Griffins, like as a coach?
No, Phil, I'm in my 8th.
Shut up.
Isn't that crazy?
That doesn't seem right.
I know.
Because, well, when did you guys win? Oh, was that 2020?
No, we won Nationals 2019, but my first year was 16-17.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So before I met the girls, like I was working before that, right?
So
you
were already in the system.
Like I was already a few years in.
That's crazy. And,
I know.
So you've seen total classes go from first year graduation like you've done a few cycles already. So if you had to compare a recruit from your first season to a recruit from this season, what would the gap be between the skill level of those two players?
Wow. I have to think about this. I wouldn't say it would be, it depends. Like, I think I'm going to answer it this way. So I think by the time they come to the point where they leave, the aspect of the player that develops the most is their play off the puck.
The way they see the game, the way they read the plays.
I think it's just like overall awareness of their play off the puck is what changes the most within like their university careers. But in terms of comparing recruiting classes from when I started to now, I would say that they have similar strengths when they come in. Maybe they're a little more skilled now and just like, once again, just more access and things like that. But I think the most development happens within their university career is where like the most growth I would see happens.
Well, and that's got everything to do with the incredible coaching staff.
No, sorry, that's not what I was getting.
I know what you were saying.
But just as like in terms of their training age, like that's a really impactful time because they're coming in at like 18 years old where they're still basically teenagers, right? So when they become young adults, like that's where like they're able to really make gains, like just like physically as well. So I would say that it's like, that's like just their training age in that time is so much higher.
So that's, oh wow, you just unwillingly created a great segue to another conversation.
Yeah.
Well, and that's interesting, because I wonder if in say 4 or 5 years time, if you would see the recruiting class be more skilled at the beginning than now, or if that trajectory is going to maintain as they come in. Like, you can only come so far, except for the select few superstars that are just, heads and tails more skilled when they start, before they start developing those aspects of their game. I wonder if you'll see that change because of how much development is ramping up, not just from the extras, which, I mean, I talked about in the last episode, or the episode before, talking about how much is available for kids as far as, one-on-one sessions, skill, specific skill training, skating, all these things, where it's become more normal across the board, and more associations are actually organizing those things in their regular development plans. So are you going to see that? So you won't see that for a few years. But what I also wonder then is, you start to see in the last couple of years a lot more players jumping from U18 to U22, or U15 to U18, jumping ahead. So, without causing too much chaos, what do you feel about that?
I think it's situational based on, each athlete, but I feel like it's so important. Like, I think the jump from U15 to U22 is difficult. To miss that year in U18 is, I think, tough for an athlete's development. And don't get me wrong, there's exceptional cases where it's like, head over heels better than everyone, U15 jumping right away to U22. But I feel like that first year of U18 is so important. And I feel like we get lost on the social aspect of the game too. You know what I mean? Like putting
like the personal development.
Right? And like, so putting a 15, 16-year-old in a room where athletes can be up to 21 years old playing, it's like that social environment's a little bit challenging as well, right? And I think there's value too, if you are good enough to go U15 to U22, but you still play that year of U18, it's like, have the puck on your stick more, gain confidence with the puck, have the abilities to like take on a little bit of an on ice leadership role, get more puck touches, make plays. Like, I think there's value in that, and even just building confidence, right? So sometimes making that jump too early, it's like, okay, you're not going to get in, like, put into certain situations because you're maybe not ready for it and all those things. So there's value within your age group, I think.
You're being very coy about this, and I love it, because you don't want to alienate anybody that's done it, which I totally appreciate.
Yeah.
But what you just said about how you've seen development between, the initial recruiting class to current, if you're not seeing this exponential difference, it kind of feels like, just play your game, take your time, develop as a person, do your thing.
Yeah. And like you said, like, I don't want to like criticize the people that have done it.
No,
and I
not
hope
at all.
It's worked out. You know what I mean? That's great opportunity. And like, there's a part, there's an aspect of taking opportunity as it comes, but like, there's still some hockey. It's like, this sounds so cliche, and like the game is one aspect of playing hockey, but it's developing like the person, the leader, the social environment. Like those are the other reasons we play sport.
No, absolutely.
So ignoring that, I think, would be you just can't ignore those other dimensions of it.
If you could, seeing how much, so we should say, and I'm going to mention this before, but you don't just coach at the University of Guelph. You spend so much time developing players in your own camps and university camps, and working with the association and doing training through the association, through the Guelph Girls Hockey Association. As you watch teams come through and players come through, is there something, I'm not going to say what's the one thing, but is there something or some things that you're seeing that you're like, man, I would love to see this start to happen, or these things start to happen? That's a tough question, I know.
I think the term skill development is a little bit of a buzzword at times right now. And one of the things that I would encourage, so with all the extra ice time and things like that, that athletes have access to at the minor hockey levels, it's being selective and almost mindful of the type of skill development you're doing. Because I think one of the biggest jumps from, let's say, U22 to university or U18 to U22 is the time and space becomes a lot less to make plays, right?
Sure.
So I feel like a lot of the skill development that is taught now is around when you have lots of time and space available. Yes, it's easier to make plays, but what do you do when you don't have that time and space? Because often you don't have it when you're in game situations, right? So are you being taught how to create time and space? And when you are under pressure, how are you being taught how to still make plays? You know? So I feel like making plays under pressure is an area that we need to get better in with coaching.
Interesting. Okay. And that makes perfect sense with the way you run your practices, the way you run, you try and introduce a lot more small area stuff, a lot more, okay, you're under pressure. How many times do you have a clear path from the goal line around the circle and with a clean shot with no pressure? Never, less than 1% of the time. So it's probably gets, so I have a nice little vision into the way things are, in that I have 2 years between the two players, right? So I've got I've already gone through 13 and I'm about to go into 18, and I'm sort of watching it happen the second time through. So when I get to watch what U13 looks like right now and what those games are developing into, you can tell the centers that have focused on just that. What do you do under pressure? How do you create space? How do you utilize space once you've created it? It seems like the centers that have introduced those aspects have created teams that are very dominant and that are very difficult to play against at this age, because there's such a discrepancy in skill development. Like you say, there's a buzzword of skill development, which is where a lot of these hockey schools and camps and all these things come from.
For sure.
You see that. I mean, that's very game specific, which is, that's your life. So I wonder if that's something we'll see more. We keep hearing more and more about, coaches at tier 1 levels becoming paid positions. And let's talk about jumping ship. Like, let's talk about changing centers, and let's talk about all the looking around. You did a great job, I think, of already laying the path for this. So many players, I think, at all age levels right now are feeling pressure to be in, I don't know about specific centers, but like constantly looking at what else is out there and what's better. I know, again, you and I've had this conversation a million times, and I don't think there's a yes or no or right or wrong answer, but I guess it's more, I'm going to more ask your personal feelings, your award-winning coaching staff opinions, and everything that you've done in your career. Let's not even, the fact that you were at Lake Placid coaching with Team Canada, doing your thing. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. I just
shaking my head.
Yeah. Whatever. You can be as humble as you want, but I don't give a crap. You know what? Perfectly. As a recruit, as somebody who is looking at OUA players and is recruiting, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about a kid that's moving around centers all the time?
I think it's hard because, like, once again, it's very situational, right?
Sure.
And it's like, there's like, I don't want to say it's like the right thing, the wrong thing. I think it's like comparison is human nature, right? I think as human beings, we're always playing the comparison game because it's, it's just part of our human nature, right? And like, I don't want to get too much into social media, but I feel like that also, like, I don't want to sound like I'm 80 years old here, shaking
Dude,
the fist on social media.
we're both
But,
old as dirt. Get over
right?
it. It's fine.
And
No
it's
one
just
thinks
like,
we're young.
so that doesn't help with the whole comparison aspect,
No,
right? So I
no.
think when you make the move and any changes in life, you have to do it if you feel like it'll better you, right? So at the end of the day, like if you do move centers, no matter like how little or how often, every time you move, it's just make sure this is best for your development. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or if you feel like it is what you truly want. You know what I mean? If every time you can be like, yes, this is the right move, then hey, all the power to you. You know what I mean? So I think it's just like saying if it's right or wrong. I think it's tough to like, say that given a full opinion on it. But I think if you feel it is the best move for you, then I don't know how to answer it. I'm being
No, and you're not being,
I don't
I think you think you're being cagey, but I don't think you are. I think it's a really hard question to answer.
Because every situation is different, right? Like you don't know how there could be like you don't know everything that goes on within a team, right? And not
Right.
Everyone's perception is their own reality, right? So at the end of the day, it's like when you are seeing a kid move from center to center to center, it's like I don't think you have to be careful judging from like that bird's eye view because you're not in the situation, right? So you just have to be mindful of like I work to get the full story in those situations for sure, right? So it's like, I'm not gonna pass judgment or anything on a kid that's been to a few centers. That's not fair, right?
You guys aren't red flagging. Yeah, you're not red
No,
flagging a
it's not
player
fair,
because
right? And it's just like that you work to get the full story in those situations. And yeah, like I said, everyone's perception is their own reality. So you hope that everyone's just making the right moves that they need to do, like even for their family too, right? You don't know what the situation may be.
And I think, I mean, I wanted you to say that. I wanted to hear it come out of your mouth so that some people get a chance to hear it from a coach who's involved in recruiting, to be like, it neither way is like a positive or a negative that is going to end things. Everybody has that fear, just like a resume, that like that one black X is going to cause the whole thing to fall apart. And okay, I'm really glad you put it that way. And no, I'm not trying to trap you into a
I don't
weird...
feel trapped. I don't feel trapped.
Thank you for saying that. I didn't foresee it. The check's in the mail. No, honestly, I don't want to steal any more of your time than I need to. I really appreciate you taking a minute to talk to me about this ridiculous podcast that I started. Remember that time I started a podcast?
Phil, this is great. I expect nothing less from you, I think.
Oh, get out of here. I honestly, it's been so funny to I released the second episode the other day, and I was a little mad at myself because I was literally editing 5 minutes before I left I'm in a parking lot outside of a goalie training facility right now.
Yeah.
And I got here, I listened to it on the drive, and I was like, oh man, I got to get home. I got to re-edit like 6 things I'm not happy with. And then I'm like, well, what do I care? Who's even going to listen to this thing? And then the next morning it's getting shared all over the internet. And I'm like, crap. Someone's actually going to listen to my dumbass. I got to fix this. So,
you mean people are going to listen to me too now? Jeez.
Oh, yeah. Well, at least I think we're up to like 150. So at least 150 people are going to pay some amount of attention to what you're saying. So
perfect.
We're doing okay for the beginning of this thing. No, I really appreciate it. You know how much I appreciate your coaching and how proud we are as a family of what you guys have accomplished, or what you've accomplished.
That's really nice.
I apologize that it's been since COVID since we've had that nice big backyard rink, and we don't get to spend as much time in the winter outside, but
it's okay. You spend enough time in other rinks, so it's all good.
Dude, it is my life, but luckily I got 2 girls that really enjoy it, and I just hope, please do not be embarrassed by this, but I hope that they look up to you enough to want to give back the way you have. Like, I know
Wow.
you probably see me trying to force feed my girls into like, please volunteer and get involved and do what you can, because if they can just pick up a little bit of it and give back even a fraction, I would be super impressed.
Well, you've got two very nice kids, so I could see them
I don't know
both
how.
giving back.
If I could ask you one question, as far as what are you most looking forward to this season with your team?
Ooh.
With your new team, which you're the head coach of.
Interim.
Interim.
I'm excited to see this team reach a potential that I don't think they're even aware they're capable of yet.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. That's what I'm excited for. Yes.
You feel like you've got a great squad.
If we can focus and, focus on the details and be intentional with our actions, I think we can do some cool things.
I can tell you when you guys make playoffs, we will be there. And so help me, if there's another Toronto matchup, we will be there. I know how you feel about that.
Always good games.
Always good games. Katie, I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm glad that you're doing this. This is fun.
Yeah?
Yeah. This is fun.
Hey, listen.
This is my first podcast. I've never been on.
Is it your first podcast?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's it. Thanks so much, everybody, for checking out this episode of the podcast. I want to thank Katie Mora for taking her time to talk to me. To all our new followers and listeners, I will be dropping some hints about topics for the next episode in the next few days. And I hope you'll watch our Instagram feed and come back again. This has been fun. Thanks for listening, everybody.